Let me read to you a passage from the 9th chapter of St. Matthew's Gospel, verses 14 to 15. It's the Gospel for Friday after Ash Wednesday. St. Matthew writes, "Then John's disciples came and asked Jesus, 'How is it that we and the Pharisees fast, but your disciples do not fast?' Jesus answered, 'How can the guests of the bridegroom mourn while he is with them? The time will come when the bridegroom will be taken away from them. Then they will fast. No one sews a patch of unshrunken cloth onto an old garment, for the patch will pull away from the garment, making the tear get worse. Neither do men pour new wine into old wineskins. If they do, the skins will burst, and the wine will run out, and the wineskins will be ruined. No, they pour new wine into new wineskins, and both are preserved.'" That's from Matthew chapter 9, verses 14 to 15, for Friday, following Ash Wednesday. And what does it suggest to us? Well, one of the reasons why the Roman Empire lasted so long and successfully, despite its various convulsions, such as its assassinations of emperors and its military coups, was its policy towards religions. It was tolerant of the various gods and goddesses of the peoples it subjected, and it tried to incorporate them into its pantheon of heavenly powers. It saw this as a religious policy, making for a religious empire. One emperor had among his religious statues and figures of gods Moses, Jesus, and various other identities he thought were the object of the cult of various peoples. The empire recognized the problem it faced in Israel, for Israel was of course monotheistic. But while Israel continually chafed at its political subjection, and in due course openly rebelled, its monotheism was not what we might say aggressive. It did not actively attempt to replace the gods of the empire with its own one only God. The case was different with the new sect, Christianity. Its one God appeared to the empire to be Christ, and the Christians actively preached that the gods of the empire were nothing. All were to acknowledge Christ, and they were prepared to die for this tenet. It was then a major subversion of the religious fabric of the Roman civilization, and it had to be put down. Now all this serves to illustrate the newness of the person of Jesus Christ and of the religion he revealed and founded. He was the founder of something extraordinarily new, and it would become the basis of a new civilization that would conquer and transform the old. And at its heart was the very person of Jesus. He was the Lord of the world and of the heavens. All depended on him, and all the nations were to be his disciples and to do what he had commanded. He was the king of an active and expanding kingdom, not a kingdom of this world, but certainly a kingdom in this world. All authority in heaven and on earth was his. Before him there was no rival. This was the new message, and it proclaimed something very new. Now, something of the utter newness of Christ and of what he was bringing to the world is suggested to us in our gospel passage today that I read earlier. "Why do your disciples not fast?" the disciples of John asked him. They could not understand it, for Jesus was manifestly a prophet, a man of God, a teacher of the ways of God. "John taught us to fast," they said. "The Pharisees teach their disciples to fast." It is clearly part and parcel of genuine religion, and yet you neglect to insist that your disciples fast. Our Lord does not deny their point that fasting and self-denial are a necessary part of true religion. He tells them that for the moment something else must be driven home to his disciples, and it was his own person. His disciples must come to appreciate and love him. He is the centre of their life. He is the centre of their religion, and they must learn that this is so. He is the bridegroom. Indeed, John the Baptist had told this to his own disciples. He had to decrease, for the bridegroom had arrived, he had told them, and he was merely the friend of the bridegroom. This expression, the bridegroom, had been used by the prophets to speak of Yahweh God. He was the one and only bridegroom of his people. And here, our Lord was using it of himself. He was utterly unique, utterly new. His disciples had to appreciate this right to the core of their souls. For this reason, as our Lord said, how can the guests of the bridegroom mourn while he is with them? But the time will come when he would be gone, and then they would fast. Our Lord presses home his point, that in him religion was altogether new. No one sews a patch of unshrunken cloth onto an old garment, for the patch will pull away from the garment, making the tear worse. Neither do men pour new wine into old wineskins. If they do, the skins will burst, the wine will run out, and the wineskins will be ruined. No, they pour new wine into new wineskins, and both are preserved. The religion of Christ, the religion that he was revealing and founding, was not just a better version of what John and the Pharisees lived and taught. Though issuing from the old, his religion was entirely new, and he was himself its heart and soul. Let us preserve in our hearts a lively sense of the wondrous newness of Christ and of the religion he revealed. He is incomparable, unique, altogether new. He is the new wine in the new wineskins. In him, as St. Paul writes, resides every heavenly blessing. In him subsists the fullness of the Godhead bodily. There is one Lord of all reality, whether seen or unseen, and that Lord is Jesus. He is the divine Son of the Father, and shares with him the divine Spirit. He is God with us, and he dwells in his body, the church, to bring to mankind the life of God. He is the treasure of every man.